Two of crypto's largest exchanges, BitMEX as well as Bitmart, are now winding down operations after 9+ years of operating. These are two of crypto's largest exchanges, and this is why it's so important to study and also do your research on compliant regulated platforms where you can store your crypto with ease and with no stress at all. This is why iTrustCapital is one of the best platforms out there in the game. And if you guys do want to go sign up and check out the platform, you can get a free $100 funding bonus when you deposit $1,000 or more utilizing my link down in the description below as well as in the comments below. What are you guys waiting for? It's one of the best platforms out there. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed. So X Money is now rolling out, which is absolutely crazy because of how many users are going to be onboarded to X Money. Now, there has been a lot of speculation over the years about how Elon Musk knows about XRP and he's going to adopt XRP and tap into Ripple, and we're going to see XRP be the backing of X. And although that does sound great on paper, there is no confirmation of this. And in fact, I don't think XRP is a part of this at all at the moment. Now, that does not mean that we won't see XRP integrated at some point in time. We already know that Bitcoin and Ethereum are definitely heavily tied back to X already. And XRP could definitely be, the next currency to be added. But we do have here from X Money that your money on the world's most powerful network, X Money, is rolling out to US Premium and Premium Plus subscribers starting today. Now, yeah, it's pretty cool. I love to see this. And the main thing that I'm looking at here with like X Money is some of the connections back to Ripple and possibly even XRP. Because we have been watching some of the key players here around like certain platforms and having like connections back to Ripple and XRP, how that's kind of unfolded over the years. Like for an example, we think about Standard Chartered, right? One of the early investors into Ripple. They're starting to do so much with digital assets. And we come back to like Zodiac Custody, which is, another arm of Standard Chartered, which is already integrated with Ripple Custody. Like some of these connections, like we continue to follow because at some point in time, it might not happen immediately overnight. They start to tap in with Ripple and we get those like big confirmations or like big announcements. Now, does that mean that X is going to do that? We don't know. Nobody knows. But the significance here is Cross River Bank. This is the bank that we are watching because we know going all the way back to March, which is when a lot of speculation really started to happen, the deposits around X payments, right, are held by Cross River Bank, member FDIC, and are insured by the FDIC up to $250,000 per individual and per legal entity for all accounts in each account ownership category held at the bank combined, including accounts held in a representative capacity. Now, Elon Musk did say true to this. He even made a post about it. Now, like I said, everyone has been speculating on this. Everyone's been saying like, oh, are we about to see XRP being plugged in? Are we about to see XRP being tied back to this? And we'll talk about why here in a moment. But if we go over here to X.com, the main reason why we are so heavily fixated on some of these platforms like integrating any cryptocurrency is because of how much traffic they have. Like X.com is ranked number 8 in the global rank, number 10 in the country rank. And if we look at visits, 3.96 billion visits. So what percentage of that 3.96 billion would you say has an X Premium or Premium Plus account, which is tied back to, X payments? Would you say 1%? Because even at 1%, you're still looking at a very significant amount of users. At 10%, it's just insane. So again, I do think that that's why everyone should be paying attention to what some of these platforms are doing. We already know that X has been kind of pro crypto over the years. Recently, they were kind of a little bit negative towards it, but now they're starting to really kind of open the doors for digital currencies and digital assets in a big way. So I do hope that we will start to see more integrations into this platform, possibly around cryptocurrencies like XRP. Now, we do have over here that we're very proud and honored to roll out the very first social media FDIC insured banking platform in partnership with X. When fully available, X Money will deliver to hundreds of millions of X users intuitive and elegant payments and account functionalities with the full consumer protection and trust of a regulated entity. This is a game changer for consumers and the market at large from a technological banking and lifestyle perspective. Much more to come in the coming weeks. So yeah, this is very interesting. I wonder what's going to get announced later on, but yes, this is Cross River Power's X Money. Now, a lot of people were asking about XRP and the XRPL, and I don't know if we're going to see that announcement or not. But it's definitely interesting when coming back to 2014, where Cross River was the first ever Ripple partner. That's right, the first ever partner of Ripple's. That's definitely a very significant connection right there. But the question is it significant enough to confirm that XRP will be tied back to this platform? I feel like everyone is, looking at some sort of connection here, trying to, connect the dots. There isn't any just yet, but we do know going all the way back to 2020, David Schwartz, who is the prior XRP ledger, or I should say Ripple CTO, original architect of the XRP ledger, he scheduled his reply tweet to a post when XRP hit 60 cents back in November of 2020. Now, there was a question for David, which was, David, hi. In one of your speeches, you mentioned that micropayments eliminated the need for larger payments. Paraphrasing, can you please elaborate? Thank you. Hope your ankle is doing well. Now, here we have the analogy that I use is packet data. What good is a packet? Well, not very much, but if you can command millions of them, you can replace circuits for carrying data. At one time, pretty much all voice was circuit switched, which is a lot like one big payment. And the conventional wisdom was that packets would never take over the telephone system because they were unreliable. But packets won because they don't require the middle of the network to be smart, so you can innovate at the edges. Routers don't have to understand video or high-level protocols. That's what micropayments can do. With low-cost, high-speed micropayments, you can make big payments out of thousands or millions of little payments, just as we do with packets and lots of problems, such as needing a quote, needing trust, the free option problem, incomplete payments just go away. So yeah, when we come back to micropayments, this post is very interesting because it's putting a spotlight on why micropayments themselves are so important, and also how significant they could be in the path to much larger payments. And I bring this up because of X payments, because again, if we're thinking about X payments, right? Sure, there's going to be transactions that are very large, maybe $100, $1,000, $10,000. But for the most part, I feel like most of the transactions here are going to be in the dollar range to maybe like $10 range, maybe even less than $1 as well. And I think about like the tipping side as well. Like imagine sending a tip to somebody on X, maybe for like a couple cents, 20 cents, 50 cents. Like there's going to be a ton of micropayments tied back to this. Now with the XRP Ledger is perfectly built for micropayments. Same with a lot of blockchain technology. Like they are built for micropayments at whole. Like even when it comes back to like Hedera was a big, pusher of like the whole idea of like, oh, blockchain can work perfectly for, micropayments. And yeah, it does. It works flawlessly for it because of the transactional speed, the cost per transaction, the scale as well, like being able to scale to thousands of transactions per second. Like those factors alone is exactly what supports the idea of some of these networks being dominant in a microtransactional world. But it's not just going to be all microtransactions here. But I do really think that this is a pretty significant announcement, especially considering the fact that yes, like Cross River Bank being tied back to this in a big way, like being that the main player here, I find this very, very interesting. And again, like I don't necessarily like think that, oh, like that's it, like XRP's tied back to this because of this. Like we don't even know if Cross River and Ripple are really tied back to one another still. There's still connections back to them, but for the most part, it doesn't feel like this is integrating any digital currencies or digital asset technology just yet. But we do know that a few big players are tied back to this, like Cross River, even Visa. So let's see what happens. But I do think that initially right now, there's no confirmed networks in the space. But it doesn't mean that we can't see integrations at some point in time. Like XRP would play a perfect role here, but does that mean that it needs to or that it will? Not exactly. But I do know that a lot of people are also connecting back the post that Elon Musk had back in October of 2022, which was no way. He was responding back to Brad's post regarding the SEC, saying like the SEC wants you to think that it cares about disclosure, transparency, and clarity. Don't believe them. When the truth eventually comes out, the shamefulness of their behavior here will shock you. And yeah, we did see from Elon Musk saying no way, because also Elon Musk did fight the SEC for a bit of time as well. So he kind of ran into the same issue. So they were, Elon Musk was basically just supporting Ripple along that fight, but it doesn't mean much at all. More so when I come back to X Money, I think about some of those older posts that I kind of went over, connecting the dots between, like the early days of the Ripple network. And you might not know what I'm talking about, but let's actually get into it. So here we have pretty much a full breakdown, and this is actually coming from Utility Theory. And you guys probably remember this. This goes all the way back to 2022, where we were starting to see the full rebrand to X.com from Twitter. And this was regarding Ripple-based networks. And if we actually read into this, we have here that over the last couple months, there has been much talk about Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter and the hate narrative that has emerged in mainstream media. This tells us that there is resistance to change and a desire to maintain the status quo in the financial world. However, change is inevitable, and the rise of decentralized networks and trust Twitter applies to that. Twitter applies to that. In this report, we will delve into X.com and the prior discussions of decentralized trust networks around 2012 and how they are transforming the way we communicate and handle money. Because if you guys don't remember, X.com was originally planned back even in 2012. And if we look into this, we have what Elon Musk is planning with Twitter infrastructure and his X.com domain, the paths to the future of Twitter 2.0, and also a ton of results back to this, as well as an article showing how Ripple Trust networks were an early discussion point from X.com and how they were transforming money, which led to, finding even original Ripple website, which was dated back to like even 2006. We're talking about 20 years ago, which is insane, absolutely insane. And this is like one of the original Ripple architects. But if we go over here, we have a blast from the past, a review of documents hidden from the internet for over 10 years, X.com research results. And this is crazy because, again, like, I love the whole idea of like, oh, let's connect the dots back to like Cross River. This is the holy grail, right? Because again, these are like all of the full connections regarding like how X.com became, a thing originally. I mean, what we already have with X right now, it wasn't really exactly what Elon even wanted. Like the X.com domain was basically the everything app. That's what they were considering it. And I feel like we're kind of getting to that point right now, but we're still in the early phases of it. Now, using the Wayback Machine website, if we actually look at this, right? This is the start of the end of the era of censored speech, because again, Elon Musk was trying to push towards, a full decentralized Twitter that was fully open, that wasn't censoring people. But to build on top of that, again, like that's just like the full decentralized open part of it. I know that you guys don't really care too much about that. You care more so about the money side of things. So Twitter 2.0, the Bird app is evolving and obtaining a money license. That happened back on November 3rd of 2022. As you guys can see here, this is the November 21st, 2022 full breakdown of it. The received date was 11/4. The authorized signature date was 11/3. And here we have the blast from the past. So again, if we're looking into this, we're mainly looking at Ripple networks. And basically what Ripple networks are is they're networks that essentially they're basically exactly what we have with Ripple, which is like advancing how payment channels work. It's a fully decentralized network. It enables real-time low-cost transactions, and that potential is very significant, especially when we think about like rebranding e-commerce as a whole, which is also the whole idea of like X-commerce, which is basically just like an e-commerce platform, which was being developed by eBay. But also we have the use of Ripple network concept in a decentralized setting would have significant economic implications. This would shift tens of billions of dollars in profit from credit card companies to individuals. They would also be able to make payments directly with each other without needing to go through a central intermediary like a credit card company. Furthermore, that the Ripple network would reduce the cost of short-term loans by providing a highly competitive market in which people would request and receive lines of credit. This is because the decentralized nature of the Ripple network would allow for a greater number of lenders to participate in the market, increasing competition and driving down interest rates, which we think about like the lending protocol that's becoming a reality. But also, when we come back to like a live implementation of the Ripple network, it actually redirected to the first versions of Ripple in 2012 with 4,500 network users, which is kind of crazy. Now, there was also the first version of the Ripple website dating back to like March of 2006, which led to, again, this is utility theory, finding the initial Ryan Fugger Ripple white paper from 2004. And that's like the original concept of Ripple itself. But looking into this, like, it's kind of crazy, but like the Ripple Trust Network was always a part of the puzzle, like even dating back to prior of like 2010, before even Bitcoin as well, which also kind of takes us back to the whole idea of like David Schwartz having a patent for DLT back in the 80s. It's kind of crazy to think about, but like that's how I look at this in a sense of like all of this has been planned. Like Ripple was going to win since, the start, which is also why I feel like Ripple is so intertwined between, all of these big players in the world of finance. But this all doesn't really mean that, all right, well, with X.com, that means that Ripple is 100% going to be behind all of this with XRP, right? I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I feel like regardless of what happens here with X.com and with Elon Musk and Ripple or whatever, the main thing I'm looking at is like, regardless of, a platform like X integrating crypto, like even if we never had crypto tied back to X, which we already do, we still have like the DTCC. We still have all of this development happening around payments and payments changing with tokenization and stablecoins. That X.com is simply just a very small piece of the puzzle. I do think that some of these connections are very, very significant. The main thing that we're looking at here, though, is that we are entering in a completely new era of payments and social media. Like social media is changing so much. The fact that you can now get paid on social media this way is crazy. I think that that's just it's just insane that we have this integrated into a social media app. I think that this is the clearest confirmation that social media itself is pretty much starting to incorporate every piece of what we already have outside of social media, so that everything's kind of all in one place, which is like the X Everything app. But it's also showing us that things are changing so quick. But this is also pretty crazy for like the creator economy. I think being able to get paid on these platforms like this is such a game changer. But again, are we seeing a very bullish setup for XRP for Ripple? Well, not in the sense of, oh, X is going to incorporate XRP like overnight or tomorrow. I don't necessarily think of it that way. I think more so of the idea of we're probably going to start to see major integrations across the board for almost every platform. I mean, XRP can already be tapped in on, Shopify. It can be tapped in on Stripe. Like those are huge platforms for e-commerce. So we already are starting to see Web 2 apps integrating digital currencies, DLT, blockchain, which is such a huge confirmation of where we're headed. We're seeing the convergence of Web 2 and Web 3 in real time, which is very exciting. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.